It's Friday, April the 15th. I'm a couple days late on my fishing report. I was kind of waiting to see what the lake level and the conditions of the lake are going to do, and also where I can figure out how to catch a few fish. I've had some pretty tough days this past week. I mean, we had a good weekend. We fished at Anglers in Action and had 16 pounds, but every day everything's changing. Had some pretty crazy weather and stuff last week. Them old fish are really wanting to move up. One day they're up on the bank, and next day they seem to disappear. But today was really good. Let me get into the lake level. Right now it's 917 and a half, and it's about 2 feet higher than it was a week ago. It hasn't come up at all in the last 12 hours. They got some floodgates open. Still a lot of water coming in on the major rivers, but it looks like it's kind of crested for right now, providing we don't get a bunch more rain. Now the water temperature's really up and down. We got a full moon coming in a couple days. There ought to be fish. The fish are wanting to come up and do their deal, but the water temperature is still in the mid 50s. I did find some 55, 56 degree water temperature today. Now it seems like if I'm down lake fishing, depends on the weather conditions, but probably the swim bait, a little 2.8 Kitech. I'm just not finding a lot of fish out off them gravel points. There's still a lot of bait out there real deep, but I'm having trouble finding fish underneath the shad. I think if that shad will ever get up there on some of them flatter points, and the places where I am getting bit, there's usually shad out there, and for the most part I'm setting the boat about 20, 25 feet, and the fish are anywhere from 8 to 12 feet. But sometimes you got to hit a bunch of points to find the right combination, find the fish where you can get bit. Today I went up into the James, and I went up to about what we call Schoolhouse or Camper's Point, and the water, a really good color. It's got a nice green color. It's not blown out. All the creeks up to that point were in real good shape. There's a little bit of floating debris around. Water temperature, we found some 55, 56 degree water temperature in between the lightning storms. And that's kind of been the deal all week, is you fish for a little bit, then you got to go hide in the dock because it's either raining, hailing, or lightning. So today we dodged a lot of the lightning, sat out in there for a while, and then we're back to fishing. But we found several fish in, it seemed like 45 degree banks in the cuts. And most of the fish seemed, we did catch some right up on the bank, but most of them seemed to be about 8 to 12 feet. And the majority of them were males. They were mixed largemouths and spots, but it was a really consistent bite. Whenever you found a place where you got one bite, you got several bites in the same little area. And as the day went on, it seemed like, the water temperature was warming up a little bit, and more fish were moving up. Now, there's getting to be enough water in the bushes. At 917, we're 917 and a half right now. It puts a lot of bushes into play. We flipped some today, but I don't know how long it's going to take, a couple more days. If the sun will ever get out and stay out and not get below 40 degrees at night, I think them fish will really come in hard. They'll get up there in the bushes, and especially where that water's a little dirtier, because they'll start spawning in the bushes and in behind them. But today, most of the fish we caught were from the edge of the bushes out to about, maybe 12, 15 foot. And we did catch some on split shots and Ned rigs. It seems like when the bite gets real tough, you got to downsize, and that's what I was throwing down like a few days ago. And in the backs of some of the pockets, I could catch some fish, but just not very many. It was just, you find one or two, then you'd have to hit 2 or 3 pockets. Well, today was a lot different. We had, oh goodness, I don't know, 30, 35 fish, and a lot of them keepers. It was really a good day compared to how I had been catching them. But we was catching them on a 7/16 ounce 5-fish lures, ultimate finesse jig. And a couple different colors. We were throwing a green pumpkin purple and a magic craw. Now, if you get into some dirty water, I would probably change the color of my jig, I would match the color of the jig depending on the color of the water. If you get into some muddy water, you know, I throw like a black and blue. And, you know, anything that's like a speed craw or a college craw junior or a Strike King baby rage craw trailer, and try to match the trailer with the jig, you know, like Okeechobee craw with the black and blue. Another good one in the stained water is something with a little chartreuse. It's a Missouri craw. And, you know, I'm using a 7/16. You can use a lighter one if you're fishing shallower, or you can even use a heavier one if you're in the thick of the bushes. Now, the Ultimate Finesse jig, to me, really works good more out in front of the bushes. But for the real thick cover, I'll throw a Ultimate Cover jig. It's got a little bigger hook, a little stiffer weed guard so you can get through that buckbrush better. And the heads on both jigs come through the cover real well. The only difference on the Finesse jig, it's got a little softer weed guard, so when you get around the buckbrush, a lot of times the weed guard will bend in and get you stuck on a little limb. But anyways, if I run into that, then I'll go with the Ultimate Cover jig. But in the, you know, in the water that we were fishing today, just had a little bit of green stain. So a lot of your, like I say, Magic Craws, Green Pumpkin Purple, PBJ will work fine in those color waters. Another bait that we caught some fish on was a shaky head. Like I said, we caught fish on a Ned rig and a split shot as well in the same area. Most of those fish were small fish. Most of the keepers seem to come either on the shaky head or jig. And I was throwing, it's a 5-fish lures. It's a new shaky head. And I was throwing a 5-inch super salty stick by Big Bite. But it's a Senko type bait. And I actually dipped the tail in chartreuse. Seemed to work real well, and it was in the same depth range from the edge of the bushes out to about 15 to 18 foot. And they were about halfway to 3/4 of the way back in them pockets, where it seemed to flatten out from 12 foot back. We didn't seem like we could get bit. But tomorrow, I mean, they might be back there, especially if the sun gets out and that water warms up a little bit. But something I was using on the jig today, I'm usually not a real big guy on scents. But I've heard a lot of guys talking about this, and I got this up at Bass Pro's Fishing Fair they had, what was it, 2 weeks ago. It's new out on the market. It's called Bait Fuel. And I actually put it on my customer's jig first. And, you know, a lot of times the bite's not real good. It's not real distinct. It's a real soft bite. And they seem to be picking the bait up and dropping it. So we put some of this on his bait, and he was catching 2 fish, sometimes even 3 fish to my 1. He was fishing out of the back of the boat. So then I put some on my jig, and that kind of put a stop to that. So that told me that there's something about this stuff that they really liked. It doesn't have any smell that I can smell. It's real slimy. It stays on the bait real well. You just want to have a rag close, because I was trying to wipe my hands on my bibs after I would wipe the bait down. I got my bibs pretty nasty. So anyways, you want to have a rag close by. But check it out if you're into scents and stuff. Like I say, I'm really normally not that big on it, because I think a lot of the plastic baits are already scented or salted. But this seemed to make a big difference for us today. You know, a lot of them same areas, once he started getting bit on the jig, we had pretty good wind in there. I'd pick up a crankbait, and I threw a spinnerbait and a chatterbait. But all I could catch on it was little guys. It seemed like the keeper fish were dead on the bottom, and you could see them on the live scope, the fish, you know, moving just a foot or 2 off the bottom. Now tomorrow they may move up a little higher in the water column, but it seemed like we just had to, you know, crawl the bait along real slow. And the best type of rock seemed to be that big black ledge rock with a little bit of gravel mixed in, but seemed like I had to have, you know, 20, 25 foot of water right behind the boat, pretty close. And like I say, tomorrow, the way everything changes, that might be completely different. But I think if we can ever get a little bit of sunshine and not get as cold at night, these fish are really going to flock to the bank. You know, I mean, they're all ready to pop. You know, the quality of the fish has been really good. They're bloated. I mean, they're fat, good and healthy. They're ready to get the spawn done. I mean, we're about 2 weeks behind what it normally should be. And with this stained water coming in, and you know, that stain is gonna get down into the kimbling area. It's not gonna by any means make it dirty, but it's gonna cut the visibility down, which I think will make the fishing a little bit better. I'm sure if you go up in the river arms right now, too far, you're gonna get into chocolate. So if you get into that, just come down and get to where the water seems to clean up where you got, you know, green. And I think you do a little bit better. So till next week, good luck, good fishing.